Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Beyond the Bytes, a show that deals with the trending issues of the region. The role played by social media is increasingly being questioned these days due to rampant misuse of the various social media platforms. Lives are being lost, communities and nations are being divided by propagandists using social media as a tool. The blatant misuse of social media is even putting the future of popular platforms at risk. We all have been left shell-shocked by the recent incident in the Karbi Anglong district of Assam where 2 precious lives were lost due to rumor-mongering through social media. Disturbing trend indeed. So what is the way forward? What regulations can be put in place to tackle this menace? Or is it even practically possible to tackle it? To get the answers to these questions and much more, we have with us today Mr. Vikramjit Barman from the Cybercrimes Awareness and Victims Counseling Assam. I also have with me Gunjan Roy, who is also from the Cybercrimes Awareness and Victims Counseling Assam. A very warm welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here at Beyond the Bytes today. To my right is Mr. Brigu Talukdar, a guest faculty at Jamia Millia, Delhi. To my left, of course, I have Mikhail Das Kuya, a child rights activist, founder Utsaah. I also have with me Mrs. Janki Goswami, the Secretary of the BJP Mahila Morcha and also a member of the party's media cell. We also have with us today Mr. Avinab Pankaj Borbora, a very young political scientist. Welcome, Avinab, to the show. And of course, I also have Bhargav Jyoti Bora, who is the president of Tree NGO. A very warm welcome to all of you to this episode of Beyond the Bytes. I'll come straight to you, Vikramjit. Blatant misuse of social media seen these days, a real cause of worry this, right?
Right, indeed.
So, is rumor mongering becoming a trend in social media?
Yes,
these
of course,
days?
of course. Recently, what we have seen in the Karbi Anglong, the message was it was circulated with the help of the WhatsApp. So that was really indeed a very grief kind of a situation for us to acknowledge. The 2 lives have lost. So indeed, it's a very big issue nowadays.
So, Gunjan, fake news, rumor mongering, becoming a widespread problem not only in the region, across the nation.
Yeah.
Why is this trend going? Why do you think this trend is growing?
First of all, we need to verify from where the source is, and if we have a reliable source, then we need to check what are the informations are. Then we need to check what is it asking us to do. If it is asking us to spread it among my friend circles and my society, so what are the messages covering? So we need to first verify those things and before it's gone into the wrong hands.
Brigu, I would ask you the same question. A widespread misuse of social media, why is it rising? Why is this trend rising?
See, any media technology, like once it first users become, accustomed to use it, they will use it more and more. And it has the novelty, right? And it is not something like it's only coming from one source. It's like everybody has a mobile phone, a smartphone nowadays. Everybody has a 3G, 4G connection. And you get the text, you don't look into it, there is a sense of gamesmanship. You get a message, you simply pass it on. You don't look whether that message is coming from where, what are its implications. You simply take it as a trusted source. We don't go behind the message, that is the problem. But any technology which is giving widespread, you cannot control it. So it will continue to grow. And let's not forget, in a certain period of time, it played a very big role, a very positive role. Absolutely. In certain ways. So obviously there is also a sense of a positiveness attached to it. So now we are looking at a darker side, right? But at one point of time when we had the Egyptian revolution where social media, when everything was closed, social media played a role of liberating a nation. So that positiveness is still carrying it out, but right now we are facing with a dark truth.
Of course, there are the positive sides, but is the negative side outweighing the positive one, Miguel?
See, of course, our relationship with technology is bittersweet. Like my friend here just said that there are good ways and there are bad parts of it as well. Now, however, I feel that while we talk about technology, we should also understand who is using this technology. Now, I mean, it's my personal viewpoint. I really believe that use of technology should be, one, intellect appropriate, second, should be age appropriate. And thirdly, it should be regulated. You know, it should not be something which is like, you know, it is free, it's kind of free market where everyone has access to it without knowing how to use it. Now, I think if these three things are taken into consideration, I believe that technology can be used more progressively rather than or having results which we saw recently, which was absolutely heartbreaking.
Now again, taking it from there, Mrs. Janaki Goswami, we have all kind of forwarded messages coming, we have all kind of posts coming. In a country which lacks awareness big time, how dangerous can it become?
See, I will come to the dangers later on. First of all, let me tell you one thing, that you know, the coming about of the internet, the coming about of the computers, the coming about of the social networking sites and the ubiquitous use all over the world, we have to admit that it is not only a part of technological development or technological advancement, but also a part of social advancement. We are also getting a lot of benefits out of these social networking sites. You call it the social media, you call it any other group. There is LinkedIn, there is Twitter, there is Facebook, there was Orkut earlier, which we stopped using. So these are a part of transformation of our social lives. So these have taken us from where we were to where we are now. So we cannot deny that they have played a positive role, but yes, every good thing is associated with one bad thing. And the misuse of social media. Now, how is it misused? There are ways of technologically misusing it, like, you know, hacking and blocking and all those things. But one big and common misuse is telling a lie on the internet. Telling a lie. Telling a lie leads to the circulation of fake news, which becomes the source of hate crime these days. So we have to put a check on it, yes.
Now Abhinav, social media of course has become a very important part of our lives. Does that make us even more vulnerable?
I think there are two sides to the coin, and the Karbi Anglong incident, what it has done is that it has basically reactivated the old debate regarding the role of social media in our lives. Now here we need to first examine why did social media become so popular in the first place. And while doing it, I come to the conclusion that it is as a result of three attributes that social media has. That is, that social media provides ease of access, wide coverage, and rapid dissemination of any information that we share over there. Now, if you look at it, these attributes are actually value neutral attributes, and the positive or negative manifestations that these attributes take are entirely a consequence of human usage. So I think any discussion on social media has to be accompanied by a discussion on the sociology of the users of social media, and this is the line that I would take, and I think this line would set the entire debate on a better perspective.
But nevertheless, Mr. Bora, we are still vulnerable because there are no regulations in place. We are not going deep into things. We are taking things as they come. And that's what makes everything go haywire.
Exactly. Actually, we do need to have some kind of regulation, if at all possible. You need to figure it out, and it is high time we do that. And recently, even we have all seen Donald Trump has also commented that fake news is the biggest enemy of America. So it is not that we in Assam or India we are facing this. It is a worldwide scenario. This is going viral. Now we have to understand two things here, that the person's attitude and the aptitude. Now that this varies. I will agree with Miguel to some extent that intellectual the ability, the intellect, it should match the intellect level, the age level, it should be appropriate. And now for the aptitude and the attitude of the person, we should understand that this kind of messages or fake news or hoax, whatever you call it, this has two basic parts. One is the initiation and next is the viral growth. Now we have to curb it at the initiation level. We cannot curb it at the viral growth level, because the message would come to me from some person who is trustworthy to me personally. So I will not be able to judge it whether it is a correct message or a fake news, or the other person is already a victim of it. So we will have to curb it at the nerve when it starts.
So Vikramjit, how do you curb it at the nerve? I want to know it from the technical point of view. Is it possible at all?
Yes,
in the first case?
It is not, see, we don't have particular spot way how you can figure it out, or there are any parameters as such, which is, globally recognized. But yeah, definitely there are ways how you can spot a particular news, or you can differentiate whether it's a fake one or a real one. So for that again you have to be, you have that intellectual level to figure it out first. So yeah, there are ways. First of all, you can figure out whether that URL is the appropriate one or not. Second is the source, of course. Suppose if you have come across an article and you're just running through your in a very quick slit, you have just ran through the headline of that particular article, and you don't have the patience to just go through in deep with the article, read down the actual content of it. So yeah, there are ways. These are the basic ways I would say anybody can use and figure it out whether it's a real or a fake one.
So basically it depends on the individual. That's why you're saying it's the intellect of the individual. Now that's where the concern comes in a country like ours, where there's lack of awareness. I would come to some of the statistics. I'm sure Gunjan and Bikramjit will be able to share some statistics also in the number of internet users in rural areas and urban areas, and we can differentiate and try and get what kind of viewers are actually using the tools, the platforms, and what is the division of percentage. But then again, if it is coming back to the intellect of the person using the platform, using the medium, then again as a nation we stand vulnerable, don't we?
In a big way. In a big way, in a sense, now there is a new idea that you cannot be simply a literate person. You have to also media literate, you have also to be digitally literate. That you have to understand the how to really understand that content. And let's face it, like it's a very new phenomenon for our country, where this digital platform have just in the last 5-6 years that have really got that impetus, that push, that coverage that has come. For a long time we have not faced it. Right now when we are engaging with it, now we are understanding the different aspects related to it. And once a person wants to know what the content is, like they said, right, you have to be very careful. And your aptitude have to be there. You have to understand what is the news. Now, the term fake news itself is a very oxymoronic, right? And news cannot be fake, and fake things cannot be news. That's what our things should have been in the past. So fake news basically is a threat to the basic idea of news. And looking into a digital media, which was supposed to give us a new vista of information, now has put us in a precipice where the basic idea of truth has been questioned, and basically information is being used to manipulate things in a society. Now this recent instance is a clear case of manipulation. It's not only that information was there, somebody, and also the thing that it took it for a very basic idea. Hopadhora is something which is taught to us. It's a term that we have come across. They have took this term, they have brought modern technology to it.
And that has been something which has been used to probably instill a fear in the kid's mind that if you don't do certain things, this will happen to you, and probably it never existed.
And to add on to the point regarding intellect, I think the problem arises because people are still not understanding the formal character of the medium. They tend to see the medium as a casual platform. If you look at the statistics in 2016 to 2017, mobile internet users increased by 17.22%, and by the end of 2017 we had a total of 456 million mobile internet users. Now if you look at the pattern of usage in rural areas, you would find that only 14 to 15% are using it for transacting financial or other services, while 49% use it solely for the purpose of social networking, and 60% use it solely for the purpose of entertainment. And there was at the same time a report by the Boston Consultancy Group, and even that report indicated that in rural areas, majority of the people have used WhatsApp as the first application. So I think the point about intellect becomes very important, because it is actually a case of the use of the internet by a population which is largely untrained to handle such advanced technology.
Now, Miguel, Bhrigu Talukdar here made a very good point. You just cannot simply be literate. You have to be media literate. You have to be digitally literate. Now, I'll tell you something. Even in my house, when I see my father, reading a WhatsApp message or a news which comes to WhatsApp, he tends to believe that it has, the same amount of research has gone into it as we find in a daily newspaper. There's a source, and it's believable.
True.
And he's not an illiterate man. He's a literate man, but he's not probably digitally literate. So through that way, a vast populace stands vulnerable. Not only the illiterate or semi-literate, but even the literate who probably couldn't catch up with the digital age.
Absolutely. See, like he's made a very relevant point here, that to be digitally literate, but now, to understand the entire scenario, one has to again go back to history. Like you talk about the education system, you talk about, you know, how the government conceptualized education post 1950, where more stress was given on university education, not elementary. Elementary education is very new as a phenomena, you know. So you have generations and generations of people who are actually are not adequately literate, and second, who have gone to schools but have not actually, in the real term, have got qualification which has no quality.
Absolutely.
Now that is what you see here, and things like fake news, it thrives on gullibility. Your father is not illiterate, but he is gullible, including my mother. You know, for example, she would actually believe a news that is absolutely fake. And now with the internet and technology age, I'm seeing young children, very young children, looking into mobile phones. People have no time to actually read these long newspapers, you know, like an Assam Tribune or a Telegraph or an Amar Ahom. People don't have time to read that, and people are more relying on in-shots. Now a new phenomenon has got news in shots. So what happens is there is this entire rush, you know, to pursue this entire urban development, fast progressing city life, where it's turned into a chaos right now. So I think there has to be a lot of reflection, you know, in communities, in societies, at the policy level, to understand the situation first. A lot of academic debate as well, to understand the situation, that where are we right now? Just by putting, okay, A, B, C, D, there's a problem that this cannot come to a full stop. Because, you know, communities and societies are complex. And so we need to come together and kind of figure out, okay, where have we gone wrong? And we cannot just stop technology reaching out to people who probably have not gone to schools, or your father or my mother who are more gullible. But how to make it more secure, you know, how to make it more reliable, and how to make it kind of more safe for people and citizens to use.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just like to add on here, it's also the nature of the medium. We have a very term called, for us, the written word has certain sort of, in an Indian society, the written word has always a sense of, we believe sanctity is the relevant.
Validity, sanctity, yes.
Formality. Now, when somebody calls us on a phone, we might not give that importance. But when we get a message in Facebook, we get in a WhatsApp, that reaches another dimension.
It is about the degree of vulnerability, the degree of gullibility. You know, people have this tendency of believing. We have a tendency of believing. Whatever comes to us, we believe. So what about people who are less educated?
Absolutely.
They absolutely will believe more than us.
Yeah, also the second thing, what I'll just add, and my point is that second is the, when we get the pictures, like for us, we know, okay, pictures can be manipulated. For a lot of people, as you have said, gullibility. People believe when the pictures come, it is real. They don't want to say whether it's photoshopped or whether it's, you know, manipulated.
It has happened many times.
It has happened many times, and this is not the first time. And in fact, the Bangalore incident was, it was the Bangalore incident where an exodus had happened, which is basically should have worked as a warning bell for us. This can happen, and it is happening right now.
But actually, I think it all started, this child lifting incident, this child lifting whole rumor started from one video clip, which was actually a video clip from a, from a ad film which was made in Pakistan. And it was circulated as somebody tried to lift a child from an area in Bangalore. This is where the rumor originated. So see how vulnerable people are. Had that come to us, we would have also probably believed, because we wouldn't have looked at the source of the video, where it had come from. We would have believed that yes, it has come from some, you know, some video clipping from the incident in Bangalore.
We are all complaining about it. Now, we cannot just say that, that we should be digitally literate and then we can keep complaining about it. This is a problem. We have, the world, everywhere they are facing it. Now, we have to understand how to curb it. That there are two phases of it. We have to create awareness at two levels. We have to control the acceptance level, that whenever you receive something, how we believe it. That is one point where you can control. And the other point is when we start the initiation level. Now, there is only 2 points. And the third thing, that is a viral growth, this is something which is a gray area, because if a message, you know, that the day before this incident happened, I had got a message from my mother in a WhatsApp. She sent me those photographs and said that this is something. And I just had a feeling that my mother would not be very happy about these photographs. I just gave a reply back that, you know, please don't forward this kind of messages. You do not know whether it is right or wrong. But that was just, you know, by response I gave when it was.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's time to intervene. It's time for intervene for the right-minded. Of course, everything boils down, as in the first round of discussion we have seen, everything boils down probably to the intellect of the user. But does that mean the authorities have no role to play? I'm sure they do. We'll take that up after this very short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond the Bytes. We're discussing rumor mongering on social media. We just had a discussion before the break. Vikramjit, I would like you to come in here. That we, especially in this country, still have this sanctity associated with anything that comes printed. Now, here comes perhaps the role of the authorities. How do you put a crack on all those fake websites, little-known websites, little-known platforms that circulate all this, and who monitors all this? Or is it not possible to monitor them at all? Can we give them a free hand? Can we give them a free run to do whatever they like, to circulate whatever they like?
I believe that up to a certain extent it is possible to monitor. But again, the law enforcement department and the people who are actually there, who are authorized actually to take any sort of regulation or to regulate anything in common, should be, should be cautious enough to what they are actually about to. And yeah, we've been running this NGO for last 4 years, and we have been closely associated with the law enforcement, and we do know that what the particular things that they can take care of, especially when it comes to the cyber crime or cyber security. I believe that there are ways.
So just to intervene you here, what do you do when you as an NGO come across such posts? What do you do?
See, for all these years we have been reaching to different districts across Assam, and we have been educating people, basically the police personnels who are there, in fact they are responsible to take care of the cyber crime cases up to an extent. But in this particular scenario, I would say the social monitoring, social media monitoring, it is a bit kind of a case where or a kind of a scenario where people should be more awakened. So we as common mass should have the idea how to figure it out first.
But do we have resources enough to even monitor, Miguel?
No, see, this is from where he said that the monitoring is possible, but for that we need to have a policy, and I'm not very sure that we have a policy to that effect, because see, I have worked on child cases. So whenever there is a violation on say a Juvenile Justice Act, I would actually report it to the government, to the state, and the government would take strict action. But if that policy comes in place, so it will be a good starting point to actually address these kinds of issues of violations. A policy is necessary because where do we draw the line? That has to be clear first. Yeah. We are not, in policy we are not clear. So once we have a set of do's and don'ts, then it is easy to regulate. So I think policy is the first measure, and that's what from where I also said something before, that we need to reflect upon. We need to have academic discussions, we need to have policy level consultative processes where we can come up with a very stringent law. And after we have that law, then we have this entire gestation period of testing it out. And then in a few years' time, we may have a situation where we are actually apprehending people or stopping websites that are actually creating things like fake news or news that can actually incite violence.
Vikramjit and Gunjan, of course, you are working closely with such cases. The existing policies in place, do they have enough to control the menace, even by half?
No, even in fact, he would also agree on this, that we hardly have anything to say about it, because menace is of course there, but to cut down even to the half of what percentage we have, it's not that easy in fact. So we someday or the other, or in fact at the end of the day, we would require some law enforcement support. Yes, we are there to examine the case, and depending on what kind of a case is this. Not every cybercrime case is always hazardous for everybody. So we would require some help, of course.
So what kind of law enforcement support you are looking forward to?
See, what I have said earlier, that we have been across many districts. Of course, that was not possible for us to do all by ourselves. So we, had a program, we call it as a project, in fact. So that was supervised by the Commissioner first and the DGP, of course. So that supervision was always required. In fact, we have the, that particular link with them to still work on it. These things are actually the basic necessities that we would.
Avinav, despite all that has happened and all that has been happening over the years for now, all this rumor mongering and mongering of hate through social media, as as law enforcement authorities, not only in Assam or in the region, throughout the country, are we still found napping and we are still sitting on it?
Obviously, there is an inadequacy of provisions, but at the same time, there is a larger point that I would like to make, that when we are talking about a stringent enforcement of policies, a stringent law, please let us also remember that regulation is also a very ambiguous idea, because regulation can also open a door to an entire program of regimentation. And the problem of regulation is that it involves answering two important questions. The first is, what do we regulate? And when we try to answer that question, the problem arises because what might be offensive for one person might not be offensive for another person, and the Supreme Court has been on record to state this point. The second is that who would regulate? And now if we place an excessive emphasis on the state as the regulating authority, mind you that we are also trading off with our civil liberties on one hand and our privacy rights on the other hand. So, and the greatest recent example is that the way the center or many state governments sought to abuse Section 66A of the IT Act. So, I think this is a very important example through which we could understand that regulation, I think it is better we take a more critical stance on it rather than advocating for an uncritical advocacy for stringency.
Miguel, would you like to respond to that?
No, absolutely. Like I said, that while I talk about regulation, it does not necessarily mean having the provisions that only represent one aspiration. And that's why I'm stressing on the importance of public debate, of public opinions, of academic work, extensive academic work, because we have a huge gap in literature as far as use of cyber technology is concerned, especially region-specific cyber technology. So once we have this academic debate, that's where we can come to have some understanding on it. Now it's very hazy. Like I said, for some people, a news like my friend here said that it might not be as offensive, but very offensive for me. But we need to draw a middle line, and that's precisely why I'm stressing on this
entire exercise of having academic debates, of having a lot of public sabhas around it, so that people understand.
Miguel is quite right in this point, because as Indians, I have seen that we have a tendency to find technocratic, bureaucratic solutions to every problem that we have. And we tend to underemphasize humanistic solutions. I think debates, awareness programs like these people are doing, I think these are the way forward, rather than uncritically emphasizing all our hopes on a state, which tends to become quite oppressive and encroaching at certain times.
In fact, I feel that holding exercises which will help in curbing such menace, where we go, we visit places like they are doing, we visit places, we try to create awareness. I think that is the best solution, because if you go and impose certain regulations that may not be welcomed by the whole generation of people, they may not like it, because there are heterogeneous sections of people who is using the internet ubiquitously. Everyone is using it. Some are educated, some are less educated.
Yeah,
so how the solution is, creating awareness. Solution is not regulating, not blocking sites.
Yeah.
You cannot apply draconian rules and block sites. That is not the way we can do it. It can turn out to be offensive for one section of people.
But again, yes, you have a point to make.
Yeah, I have a point to make here. There's an example over here, what you said. There were certain times when we had fraud calls coming from RBI. They're saying that, you have won some lottery, you have got some money, you have got...
Absolutely, and a lot of people have lost a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of
money.
That.
Yes.
Now, what happened? Like, a law to control that, is it going to be effective, or the awareness campaign that they made, that people will reject this kind of messages, that people will not accept the credibility of such calls? I think that is going to work out more, because to create that awareness, the people should have that awareness that yes, this can be a fraud.
We are looking at two different things. What you are saying is a part of cyber fraud, and this is completely different
I'm not saying about that.
messages
When
which are trying to disrupt the harmony of the people.
No, this is not
for
like that.
social
It's
issues,
like that.
what we need is an educative role, and for cyber fraud and other such relatable incidents, I think yes, the state has a role to play, but what we are essentially looking at is two different issues. I think we should take cognizance of that.
No, there are two different issues, but the solution to there is a simulated solution level. I'm talking about awareness. That if you create an awareness that yes, you may get a message claiming that you have got some lottery, and you just reject it at the first level, I'm not talking about the cyber crime or the cyber theft or the rejection of it.
This awareness business. I come from a civil society organization, and when you talk about awareness and awareness, who creates this awareness? One, okay, because as a civil society organization, I know my constraints.
Yeah.
I might have 10 ideas but I cannot go and do awareness programs for 5 million people. It's impossible. Yeah. Not with the state support.
Absolutely.
So who is responsible for the awareness?
There I would like to add up your thing. When I'm using Facebook, that's definitely that duty should be of Facebook. Now, if I'm using WhatsApp, WhatsApp should do it.
See, these are all very relative. These are all very relative because, circulation of a news, circulation of a rumor may not amount to a cyber crime every time.
True.
Does it?
Definitely,
it may not.
Definitely not. But they
not
can
amount to
say
cyber
that
crime.
you
So
cannot trust every message that you get. If you get a notification from WhatsApp to every user.
What you are saying, you are opening up the ambit of the state to enormous proportion, whereby you are giving the state an enormous power to use the medium like Indira Gandhi did in case of the Doordarshan during the emergency. So we should learn from history. What happened in the case of the Soviet Union? What happened in the case of East Germany? What happened even in India in case of the Doordarshan under Mrs. Gandhi?
I agree with your point. I'm just not saying that you go to that extent. I'm just saying that the state should put that much of an emphasis that when you are doing some business here, you're doing some social network.
Okay, we can agree on that regulations may not be the solution. Putting regulations in place may not be the solution. But in a country like ours, where we have remote places, we cannot reach half the part of the nation till over 70 years after independence. Can we pretend that we will be able to spread awareness to every nook and corner so as to do away with the evil?
Definitely not. No, I'll just add on to here what. See, the thing is, number one, when you want to regulate certain thing, so this is a very difficult area to regulate because this requires high-level encryption. And Facebook or WhatsApp are places where there are a lot of personal information is. Who draws the line? Number one, who draws the line? And for a country like India, I think this is where people like them, Gunjan and all come, because they will have to, in a sense, handhold the law enforcement or make sure that they create a certain mechanism, create a certain idea where the law enforcement, without crossing the line, can also curb these messages, like in an initiation period or whether in a viral thing, and how to really use the society, because it requires from both sides. Like we need the law enforcement on one side, we also require the society to respond to it. Both sides.
Of course, but we should have a two-prong approach. One is a long term. Nobody can deny that. But again, we do not want a repeat of the Karbi Anglong incident, say next year. So what are we doing, or what can we do to curb that?
There must be fear.
Awareness is fine.
There must be fear that if I spread some wrong message, there must be fear.
I think fear is a very primordial conception that you are giving. Across the world, deterrence as punishment as deterrence theory has failed. It has failed in the case of the French penal system. It has failed in all those countries where capital punishment has been banned. I think this is a very primordial conception.
So how do we create a deterrent in this case? How do we create a deterrent so as somebody who gets a fishy message thinks twice before forwarding it? How do we instill that sense of responsibility? In a short frame of time. I'm not talking about long-term awareness and all that.
The problem is that we look for short-term solutions every time to issues which are actually of a longer-term basis, to issues or mediums which are of a very broad character. So I think over the shorter term or over the longer term, this is more so a case of developing the intellect of the people, training the people, and like my friend has said, it's about drawing a policy that lays down certain basic rules and is not very encroaching at the same time.
And let's not forget
certain basic rules can be laid down as part of a regulation. On that note, we'll take a very small break. Don't go anywhere. Lots more coming on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond the Bytes. We are discussing rumor mongering and fake news on social media, how to curb the menace. Now, I would like to come back to Brigu. Brigu, again, awareness is a long-term solution. We need some regulations. Again, there are no two ways about it. We need a deterrent. We cannot deny that. What kind of deterrents can be put in place? if we do not decide to go ahead with the deterrence, how do we ensure that the same thing does not happen tomorrow? The same rumor mongering does not happen tomorrow, doesn't happen next week, doesn't happen next month.
See, whether a policy, whether it's short term or long term, it's basically dependent on how you enforce it. And let's not forget that in this incident, we have found people who have spread these messages in Facebook have been caught. So, Indian, it's the proactive response of the law enforcement and a knowledgeable response to it. They're not going and holding everybody, picking up everyone. They have really monitored it. They have got their sources. They have informed. They have,
Again,
Can I just intervene once here? You said proactive. I feel the reaction was very reactive. One, okay, because it happened because 2 boys died. Had the 2 boys didn't die,
absolutely. I was
it would have
coming
never
to that.
happened.
I was coming to that. Gunjan, if that fateful incident would not have happened in Dokmoka, in Karbi Anglong, do you think all those people would have been detained for posting something objectionable on Facebook? Usually, if it was another normal day in administration, do you think those boys would have been detained, or they would have got away with it?
Well, that's a very hard statement to make.
No, I think it's a pretty easy statement to make.
Of course.
I think it's a pretty easy statement to make.
Because these people were doing all those mischief mongering and rumor mongering despite knowing the fact that all those provisions existed in the penal code.
True.
For example, section 505, section 67 of the IT Act, these are basically provisions which are dealing with or were meant to curb the very practice of inciting hatred through rumor mongering and other such practices.
Can I intervene here just once?
Yeah, sorry.
How do you expect somebody in the village knowing what 69A is or 66, whatever the provisions are? How they don't even know.
No, my point
they
was
don't
that
even know.
my point was that there was the presence of a law machinery on the state, and I think this very fact negates
the point.
Negates the point that my friend over here has made, that fear is the reason or the fear is the way to deter such incidents in the future.
But don't you think? But don't you think? But don't you think, Avinav? Don't you think, Avinav? Because
I think you used the word
fear was used.
But
you have
again,
misunderstood the
yes,
terminology.
again, yes. Don't you think, Avinav, because over 40 persons were detained for posting objectionable posts on social media, another 400 will think twice before posting something? So don't you think that fear is working there? At least short term, temporary, whatever, but it is working.
I think if fear would have worked and was the appropriate solution, Islamic fundamentalism would have disappeared after the killing of Osama bin Laden. That's the larger point, and that's the basic point that we are making. After the, if you see the condition of the French penal system, I think all European criminals would have ceased to operate. So I never think that fear is the solution. This is a very bureaucratic solution that we are adopting to problems which are of a more long-term basis, which have a more humanistic character.
See, but how
Mrs.
to start
Janki
off?
Goswami, don't you think?
Solution starts with it. See, to start.
Don't you think that will that instilling that fear will at least drive people towards awareness? Let's try and find out what's in there. I could be in trouble for posting something, so let's try and go for it. Let's try and know what I can do, what I cannot.
On the part of the people. Because how do terrorist movements start?
See,
how did the
I would like to go a little deep into it. First of all, though I represent a political party, today I am here more on a social agenda. But let me first tell you that every single mother, every single father has cried this time because of this unfortunate incident. It was, it could have been abated probably, but it couldn't be abated since it has already happened. Now let us also look into the factors which caused it. It is not only the spread of rumor on the internet. It is also about the education level. It is also on the development level.
Absolutely.
It is also about the mindset of the people who stay there.
Absolutely.
It is also about the mindset of the people, and we need to understand the situation, what Karbi Anglong is. How the users, the internet users there.
Ma'am, please. Here I would not agree to you much, because what about Bangalore then, and what about the other places?
Yes,
that
it has.
I think what
in Tamil Nadu also it has happened.
Yeah,
Yes, it has happened. It has happened in a village in Tamil Nadu. Look, but see, since I am from Assam, I know this place called Karbi Anglong. I have been there. I have seen the people. I have seen the situation there, and it is very possible that that kind of an incident can take place in that place because of the level of education of the people there, and it is very unfortunate. And now let me also tell you one thing. What our government is doing, our government is playing a very pro role after this incident. It is very unfortunate that it happened, and I really sincerely pay tribute to the families of the bereaved. But what our government has now done is they are trying to create a social awareness program regarding the spread of such hate crimes. As I told you, stopping the usage of internet or applying draconian laws is not possible. But yes, trying to drive a campaign which will create awareness in the minds of the
but
people,
again, our
yes, it is possible.
our governments are taking it up at war footing.
Yes,
because there is a need of the
yes,
hour.
it has.
Do you see that happening?
Yes, it has now started with the start of the CM's program called Manuhe Manohar Bape. They have started this. The CM has taken initiative in starting this program, where this social awareness program, it will be taken as a campaign and it will be started in every district starting from Karbi Anglong now. That awareness should be spread among the people, hate messages should be stopped, and digital literacy is one big factor which should be brought
And
about.
because at the end of the day, social media is just a medium of expression, and it is basically giving, basically a platform for addressing or expressing larger structural insecurities that people are facing. And if you again, as I have told you, Karbi Anglong is a transitional society whereby people are still living in feudal conditions, having insecurities in terms of their politics and their economics. So what is social media? Social media is that platform for expressing their discontent. So I think we should, the response that we design should also take into account the actual basis that produce such discontent. I think the government's role is quite...
Now, Vikram, very quickly, we are running out of time. How do this kind of messages spread so fast? What is the origin? How do they spread? How, I mean, the technical part of things.
See,
and the area of functioning.
There are a lot many things I can say about the technicality of this, how it works. But yeah, of course, as we know that the social media, of course, it's an example itself. So we use WhatsApp, we use Facebook. So I just need a fool to just, you know, start propagating the same information.
Anything sensational spreads faster.
Attention seeking and popularity
never goes out.
anything sensational spreads faster.
I think,
but it can't be coincidence, right? Somebody is consciously trying to create a trouble.
Right.
So isn't that the failure of the government machinery again to nip that in the bud?
See, we commonly have come to know one thing, that this Karbi Anglong thing has happened only with the help of the WhatsApp, right? The people who were there in the Karbi Anglong have got a message. On the basis of that, they have sought their mind and they started whatever they were supposed to do there, right? As criminals.
It was to an extent manipulation also.
It's there. Yes, manipulation is there, but again, if I don't have your number, I'll not be able to, you know, send any message to you. It's not the broadcast kind of a thing which happens in the Facebook in a common platform, right? So if I want to send something in particular to you, then again I have to have your number. And to be more precise, I would like to say one thing, that see, crime is always there, crime was always there in the past, right? Just the medium has taken a course.
And rumor was also always there.
Just
that it has got a platform
medium,
now, a bigger platform than ever before.
Yeah.
So the medium has got changed.
It has a faster means of communication now.
You can defame somebody, you just cannot go across and kill somebody with the help of the internet, but of course you can defame that person, you can, you know, drag him to that level so that he can go and commit suicide someday. So there are a lot many ways you can, you know, use internet. Of course there are good ways also. There are
But then again, why certain areas, you know, why certain areas that certain messages do the rounds in certain areas, you know, how effective has been the cyber cell of the police in cracking those? You know, what is the origination of a particular message? Why it has been effective in a certain area? Who has been pushing for it? We know of tools through which you can push. You can push a message through. I mean, in Facebook, you have something called a boost. You boost a post, it has a wider audience. So who's doing it? And we don't see much of a crackdown in these sort of things.
I would say these kind of crimes happens, you know, not at a place. I won't say anything about any place, right? Even I'm not supposed to say anything about it. But a person who is mentally retarded or has some, you know, grievance on somebody, or who is, you know, suspicious in nature, or something that is not actually, you know, in generally claimable or acceptable. That kind of a person can actually, you know, get into all these things and make things happen.
Now again, Mrs. Janki Goswami, political parties, be it the Congress, the BJP, whoever, they have a big fan base in social media, and we cannot deny that even parties have been guilty of, I won't say putting up a fake post or fake news, but tweaking a little bit with the facts so as to present their part of the picture and kind of painting in black the other side. Is that also not a serious concern? That also is a sort of, you know, misleading. And that has happened. That has happened time and again.
What do you say, like propagating ourselves?
It could be. I'm not saying a particular party, but everybody has been doing, even tweaking with history to an extent, to try and portray a particular party in a certain way. And
in fact,
is it not the least that the bigger parties can do to stop these practices?
See, in fact, what I would say is that the BJP website in between had become a victim to this hacking episode. You know, we had come across this when you click on the BJP website link, our party's link, we had fallen a victim to this. You click on that link and it opens at a porn site. That is what happened.
Yes.
And it was continuing for 3 months. So I cannot comment on that, you know, because we ourselves have been victim of cybercrime. I cannot comment. I will not agree to this, what you have said. I will not agree to this. We have
and it's not just for the parties, it's for any organization.
Tried.
It's for any organization which is a bigger base, which is a bigger following. They have to be responsible in their approach, in their posts, in the information they disseminate.
That is true, yes.
Can it start from there?
We have been very responsible in doing this because we have our definite social media groups who are doing this, who are posting their part. We are only trying to propagate what is right and what good we have done. It's only about good governance. We have not gone beyond that.
I just, yeah, like the behavior of online behavior. Like let's say that these sort of incidents have not happened in isolation. The hate messages, and not particularly this, there are hate messages all over the world. You go to US, UK, the right supremacists, the India, everywhere there are hate messages, the trolling. So these sort of behavior, this online content, you see it's very abusive and people are getting, you know, it is a normal, the new kind of normal in social media, you can say anything and can get away with it. So that sort of also fuels the idea that these sort of behavior is also acceptable and you can get away. So it also has certain linkages we cannot deny. So what I would say that we need a rigorous debate on this. We need a very, very strong regulation in it.
And also what Mr. Bhargav Jyoti Bora pointed out, the silence of the quote unquote enlightened minority is also aggravating the problem. If today I as an individual know that there's something wrong with that, instead of ignoring it or probably blocking the person who has sent it, it's also my duty to go ahead and revert and put a post.
Yeah, definitely. We have
which
to
is not been happening, which has not been happening.
At individual level as well. We just cannot expect that one day everybody will be together and then something will happen or the state will come up with something. Every time we are giving the burden to somebody else.
We have to apply
as
our own
individuals
filters.
also we have our responsibilities.
Yes, yes.
I get a message, I know that this message can be wrong, maybe I have found that it is wrong, and I should at least tell the person who has forwarded it to me that yes, don't do that. You have done a mistake. This is the wrong thing.
I just add on to it. How many of us like go and really find something offensive, and how many report that?
Absolutely.
Simple tools are given there. How many of us
Absolutely.
report
Absolutely.
Abusive
Absolutely.
or something?
Absolutely.
I do it. Like, we have to spread this awareness that everybody has a responsibility to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Abhinav, last words from you. What should be the way forward to tackle this rumor mongering in social media?
Our responses should be guided by understanding the social character of the problem. Now, if we see by the end of 2017, internet penetration across India stood at 59% of the total urban population and just 18% of the rural population. This means that in the next few years, the rural arena would be the theater of the internet market and also would be the theater of the social media market. Now, why is it interesting? Because amongst the rural segment, 57% of the internet users are the youth. And in Assam, we have a base of 3.39 internet subscribers. So awareness programs, whatever they might be, should also have a very strong component for the rural youth, because these are the people who are most likely to get affected in the coming days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Janki Goswami, your last words.
See, digital literacy comes only after education. It should be education first. We should lay stress on education, which our government is doing. They are doing their part in promoting education, in promoting regions which are lying backward, like Karbi Anglong. We have pumped in a lot of resources into development of roads and development of tourism in that place, like the incident which had happened near the falls. We will now try to develop that area as a tourist spot also. And only after this basic level of development
everything
happens,
has to go hand in hand.
Yes,
It's
we
a
will also lay
comprehensive
stress
process.
on digital literacy.
Absolutely. Miguel.
Well, I think it is like I've also said before, that it is time for reflection. And like by reflection, I mean consultative processes, not only in town halls or in universities, but also in communities as well. So, and driven by the state. So at the end, I would look at, like I said, not a draconian policy or a law, but absolutely a set of regulations. But these regulations should not come out from, like, it should not have a top-down approach, but should come up with a very strong consultative process that can actually say
regulations after a strong consultative process. Brigu Talabdar.
Same here, because regulation and what we have found lacking in our bureaucratic machinery or the administration is proper policy on media. We need that rigor right now. It's high time. We go through that consultative process, we build regulation and we enforce it. That's it.
Gunjan and Bikramji, being from the Cybercrime Awareness and Victims Counseling Assam, what would you like to say to the authorities to better the situation at the moment? Very quickly, last words from both of you.
See, what we together do believe that it's not always possible to give a comprehensive approach, or putting all the information, education related to cybercrime, awareness, everything in a same bracket and just put it to somebody, put it on somebody or before someone. So yeah, we already have got a lot of associations and many other people who are stakeholders, in fact, at their own places. They have joined hands with us regarding this awareness thing. And we are also looking forward to, get lot of associations from different schools, universities, institutions, who can actually appoint a representative.
Bringing
Right.
all the stakeholders together is the idea. While there's a widespread belief that regulations should be there, it should not come rather at the cost of individuals' privacy. But everybody believes creating awareness is the only way forward to get rid of this menace. On this note, we take your leave today. Do join us at the same time next week. Till then, stay well, stay safe.